In step 8 of this IPL course on self-awareness, we talk about your human senses and how often they capture information and the thought paths in your mind that information takes, and how much of it is filtered out, and the potential to make new decisions about what to filter and see new opportunities.
I do want to talk to you about approximations. I want to talk to you about memory, and I hope by now you're convinced that the way your body works and your mind works is analog and not digital. And that you live in the physical world, lots of it is wobbly and variable, it's shifting fast, and it's multidimensional. When I say multidimensional, for example, you have several senses, your different senses. Now, each of your senses is in effect a dimension of your, spinning here, of your human existence. So the most obvious is sight, sound. There's other things you're feeling, sensing, I suppose you could call it. You've got a sense of movement to some extent, but it's change. It's not actual movements like that. It's acceleration. When you change, you've got a sense to tell you, are you accelerating? And you've got another sense for change, because your body wants to know what's happening to it in time and space. So you've got other senses to do with your spin and things like this. For example, your ears have many different capabilities. Your taste has a whole load of stuff, and so on and so on. All these senses are inputs to your mind, and they're analog inputs. So it means that they are potentially 10,000 times a second, depending on how your senses are actually built. So if you actually look, if someone sticks sensors onto your body and looks at what it sees, I've seen this, not in the best of circumstances, actually, it's in a medical environment. But they stick a bunch of sensors on you and they put them up onto a sort of graphic display. So you're sitting there and you've got sensors, maybe on your head, maybe on your arms, your legs, or whatever. And each of those sensors, let's say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each of the sensors is picking up electrical signals that go like that. Each of them have got different, depending on where they are on your body, all these signals are coming in at a certain rate. If that particular part of your body, if the sensors are no blooming good, you don't get any waving, because basically the nerves that carry the signals from that part of your body are knackered. And that's one way of them telling you what's working well and what's not working well. So these are all inputs. And then they all come in to your mind, one part or another of your mind, and they're processed. Now you can imagine just how much data there is. If your sights, your sounds, your touch, your taste, and so on, are whacking things in, how many sensors do you actually think you've got on your body? If you were to just take a square inch or a square centimetre of your body and prick it with a little needle like that, or like that, or like that, can you tell out of that square inch whether you pushed it in top left corner or bottom right corner? And that's just on 1 square inch of your body. And the answer is yes, you can tell. You have thousands of sensors as far as touch. I don't know how many, so you'd need a doctor or something to tell you. But it wouldn't surprise me if it isn't 100,000 different ones. Now, I put a challenge to you before about your sight. How much do you actually see? when you're looking? How much data do you gather? And how often do you gather that data? So in the back of your eye, you have sensors and they pick up information. So each second, let's say, your sight may take 100 photos. And each photo may have, I don't know the exact numbers for this, but how much data you think? Each time you look somewhere, you've got a part of your eye that's at the middle, and then you've got what's called your peripheral vision. And you're collecting, well, let's say it's 5,000. Now, sound, remarkably enough, collects even more information quicker than your sight does. People reckon that if you look back on it, you had to exist as a human being in the dark, and you didn't have your sight in the dark. So your hearing had to be really switched on. Even when you were asleep, your hearing, there's things that are there detecting whether you're at threat. That's all part. Do you remember I talked about nature and nurture? Now, a lot of these senses you're born with, but not all of them. If you think, when a baby is born, what's their sight like? How good? If you move something in front of them, how good is their brain at analysing what they're seeing? And the answer is, it's not that great. When they're born, they have to learn to develop their sight, which is why good parents will hang things like mobiles over a kid's cot and so on. And there's two schools of thought on that. One bunch says it drives them mad, but also some parents even put little chimes up and play music in the background when the child's asleep. And a lot of kids like a nightlight because they're anxious that some beast is going to come out of the forest and, give them bad time. So we have to be, when we're born and we have all this nature, it needs to be developed. And the problem, and the reason I'm doing this whole series of lectures is a lot of that nurturing basically stops by the time you're 7 years old. And from then on, most of what you get, your education, is it's just this academic stuff. It's not the stuff you need to actually grow and fulfill your whole potential. So I'm going to finish off this little section, or long section, depending on how you feel about it, by saying, here's your senses. They're creating all this input. They're creating all these masses of data. So they comes in, and it's like hundreds of thousands of pieces of data every second, and your mind has to prioritize what to do with that data. And it has to approximate here, and it also has to filter. Now, herein is the issue. If your mind is filtering out the wrong stuff at a subconscious level, you're not even going to see it. I think we're on our way, and I hope I'm keeping the computing and you and your learning process connected, because we together, we can make a journey that takes what you sense and what you process and what you use from the physical world, and with increased awareness of what's actually going on in your mind, you will be able to develop your emotional intelligence, and through that, that'll help you with your social intelligence. That in turn will help you create more intelligent filters and behave in a more optimized way, which is applied functional intelligence. And depending on the kind of job you do, all of that may help you take advantage of and use your academic intelligence. It depends. And if what you've been taught at school isn't relevant, what you can do is use your academic skills to actually replace what you were taught at school with relevant and purposeful information. So you may not need to know the periodic table, you may not need to know equations about speed and time and dynamics and stuff like that, but depending on the sphere of activity you go into, you will need to build up relevant and purposeful information. And I do acknowledge that the stuff you've done at school and university will have developed your mind to a point that learning new facts and processes will be easier for you. This is mostly about facts and processes, but they need to be relevant and they need to be timely and be applicable to the situation that you're in or the situation you hope to get yourself into. I think that's a reasonable point. What we're going to move on to next, I haven't a clue, but I'll know very soon. Cheers.
This is a decision point in this course. You need to choose whether you want to live your life in a normal way or whether you already feel you have potential within you that can be developed. And indeed, you would be correct. You have several superpowers and you have the capability within your mind to develop soft skills and learn new things in new ways, and especially to see opportunity, which is all around you. So I urge you to continue with this course. I hope you will invest the time, and I hope you will be making notes and thinking about what material we're covering here in the right way, because you are 90% of the success of this course, and it will benefit you more than anybody else. And you're not doing it for anybody else, you're doing it so that you can have a full and happy adult life. Good luck.